Today's episode is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download and 30-day free trial at www.audibletrial.com/figureoutyourlife. With over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, and Kindle. Now let's get to the show. Figure Out Your Life podcast, where we try to figure out the answer to life's questions. I'm your host, Toya T, your sister from another mister, aka your black woman PhD, aka your traveling sister, aka your tardy B. Tardy T. Let's call it that, because I'm already late with this podcast. It was supposed to come out on Monday, obviously, but it was a holiday and I was out of town, and then I said I was going to come out on Tuesday, but I needed that full day of rest. So yes, Tardy T is here finally to give you the next episode of this week. Okay, let me stop joking. So, hi guys, welcome back. I'm so happy to be here, although I wish I was still back in Tulum, which was such a magical trip. Again, I have to shout out to all the ladies that I met during the Tulum trip that was hosted by Viva la Lingua Travel and Hey Dr. Court. I want to shout out to all the people that I met down there, including Trisha, Tamika, Kaimisha, Jamaica, and Elise. And am I missing anybody? Oh, and of course, I have to shout out my girl, the one that put together the whole amazing, wonderful, beautiful trip, Dr. Aisha Court, aka my ABC, aka my Ace Boon Coon, aka my BFF, aka my sister friend, aka my sister from another mister. That I just really enjoyed this trip. It was absolutely amazing. It was 4 days of just relaxation, exploration, laughs, good conversation, great food, great drinks, just all around wonderful. I'll just give you a short kind of, summary of the trip. So it started on Thursday, October 10th. Everyone was welcomed with a welcome, what was it? It was a welcome mimosa. I think it was a mimosa, because I don't think it was a margarita. No, it wasn't a margarita. It was a welcome mimosa. It was great. Then it led into, we went to dinner at Wild Tulum, which was, everything was like family style. So we got there. The food was absolutely amazing. The ambiance was just like out of any kind of like romantic, mystical kind of dream. It just, like lit by candlelight and little lights and, those lawn lights and lots of trees. And like they had this smoke going mainly to get, to fly away the mosquitoes, to get this mosquitoes to go away. But it was just like so freaking magical. Conversation was great from the first night. The second day we went to Gran Cenote, where we swam. Can I speak English today? Where we swam in the Gran Cenote. This is like these underwater caves. They're all over Mexico, all over, I think all over Central America, because I know there's some in Belize too, I think. But it was just absolutely just magical and beautiful. If you want to see like videos and pictures, just go to my Instagram at Latoyat, Latoyat, and you can see it in my highlights, some of the stuff that we did, and you can see some of the pictures. I'll be posting more and more of them, and I feel like I need to. You can also go over to Hey Dr. Court's Instagram, which is exactly what it is. Hey Dr. Court. What the fuck? Did you hear that? Was that my phone? Damn it. Excuse me. I forgot to turn my sound off. Come back and completely forget how to record and turn all my shit off, so it's not like, dinging off while I'm trying to record. But so we went to the Gran Cenote. We went to this amazing art gallery after, Azulik Art Gallery. You definitely need to look it up. I'm going to post those pictures I think on my blog, I definitely will do it. I'll just post the pictures because it's just, you have to see it, and I don't think the pictures even do it justice. It was just so beautiful and amazing. It was this art gallery that was pretty much just made, organically with the material that was there. So like they used the trees and they, shaped the concrete into these like funky shapes, and they let the water come in, and I can't even really explain it, but I will put those pictures and the information on a blog post hopefully this week. But Tardy T, I think that really should be my rap name, Tardy T, because damn, everybody swear I be late, but I be on time. I might not come when you want me to come, but I'm always on time. Hope that wasn't blasphemous. Ooh, because from where I came from, that was definitely, if that is somewhat similar to what heaven is like, I need to keep myself on the straight and narrow so I can get myself into the heaven of my dreams. But so we went to this beautiful art gallery. You got to check it out. We also went to a couple of beach clubs. We went to Akeem Beach Club in Tulum. That was absolutely amazing. Like waterfront restaurant with lounges and drinks and food. It was just great. And what else did we do? There was the Mayan ruins, which I didn't go to because I went in June, so I didn't want to do that again. Plus, it'd be super freaking hot there. So if you do decide to go to the Mayan ruins in Tulum, just a reminder, there is no shade, and it is like super freaking hot over there. But apparently the beach was open. So unlike the time when I went, the beach wasn't open because it was high tide. But when they went, they said the beach was open and people were like in the water. And I'm like, that is exactly the kind of thing that I love. But spent the day going to the beach again, like beautiful water, beautiful sand, just great people, great food, great conversation. I had such a great time. I'm saying great so many times, but it was just amazing. The house we stayed in, Casa Leonardo, was just like, it looked exactly the way the pictures looked, just great. Just this nice villa, like 3 stories. And, there was about 4 rooms. Everyone had a roommate. There was a hammock, there was a pool, there was a jacuzzi, there was a unicorn in the pool, we had tons of stuff going on. I had a massage in-house. We also had yoga, where if you go on my Instagram page, again, you'll see me do my first headstand. I did that shit in freaking Tulum, rode bikes into town with the girls into Tulum, which was it was quite harder than I thought. Like, damn, I don't know if I'm ready for that bike gang. I'm gonna have to work up my leg muscles to get on that level. But it was just in such a nice experience to try, like, just do that. And everyone's like on bikes, and it's just like really like a hippie, relaxing vibe. Very different from if you ever been to Cancun. Cancun's a very like party central, heavy place, and Tulum is like the relaxing. You can party if you want to, you can relax on the beach, and if you want to, you can go to art galleries if you want to, you can just lay out, zen out, get a magic brownie like we did, and just like coast. So highly recommend it. Definitely go check out the other trips that Hey Dr. Court is putting together through Viva La Lingua Travel. The next trip is to Barcelona, which I am thinking about, and I might want to go to, because I've never been to Spain, and this trip was so amazing that I'm just kind of like, damn, I want to see what else she has in store. And I just want to say that it was a great trip. So applaud. This is not an ad. She's not paying me, but I paid her. Okay, I paid her for this trip, and it was definitely worth every penny. I completely, thoroughly enjoyed it. On top of that, we had a private chef. I want to say that too. We had a private chef that cooked breakfast for us every single day. Healthy food, delicious food, like cooked to order, like with smoothies, with drinks. Like we also had a mezcal tasting where they also made us mezcal in-house. They made us like mezcal cocktails. We had dinner that night too. Like it was just absolutely just such a great experience. And that's all I can say about it. You're going to have to go check it out for yourself. I highly, highly, highly recommend. You can go solo. You can go with your best buddies. You can go with your family. She can accommodate all those things, but it was just so great. So I went to Tulum. That was great. And while I was down there was a couple of news stories that popped up that I thought was, let me talk about it, because I like pop culture stuff, but I wasn't sure if I want to cover pop culture stuff on this podcast. I'm thinking of maybe just, doing it on my YouTube channel, but I thought these two stories were significant. So one, during the weekend we were down there, it was also Howard Homecoming. So Howard Homecoming is a big thing. They get tons of like black stars to come in and celebrate at Howard for their homecoming weekend. And one of those people that came was Kanye West. Apparently he's the one that popped it off. He was the opening act on the Saturday, and he had a quote unquote surprise, but not really surprise because they sold tickets to it, and apparently it sold out pretty quickly. So he had a surprise Sunday service on Saturday morning, where he brings his like choir and they do like, remixed R&B hip hop versions of gospel. It's also supposed to be part of, I think, Kanye's cult, the Church of Kanye. But also seriously, it's supposed to be a way for him to advertise do promotion, promote his upcoming album, which is Jesus is King, I think, which he says that is gospel music and he's only going to do gospel music. But I'm like, okay, brother, I don't know what kind of gospel you're preaching, but I definitely am not joining that congregation. I ain't saying that, but the singers that he has with him, I've heard them sing. It is amazing, but that is not what is the problem. The Sunday service singing and the gospel choir that comes out and shows out is not the problem. Kanye is still the fucking problem. So I read an article in the blog on YBF, Young, Black, and Fabulous. I don't know why they still cover him, but, he is good clickbait because I clicked on it. But they said there was some controversy because Kanye, again, cannot keep his motherfucking mouth closed. If you want to talk about redemption, you want to talk about the spiritual journey you're going on, you want to talk about how you want to enter into the gospel game and kind of just like, expand your creativity. I don't need you to come up there ranting your like anti-intellectual, like political, race-based messages. Not even that. I'm saying race-based messages. It really is white supremacist messages that he's putting out there. So he went on a 10-minute rant, and I'm going to say rant, but he can 10-minute talk before the choir started singing, apparently. And he was talking about, again, how the Republican Party freed the slaves. And I said, what the fuck? Which is true, but he keeps talking about it like it's some unknown secret. Like just how Trump keeps saying it, like, did you know that Lincoln was a Republican and Lincoln freed the slaves? It's like, yes, we fucking know that. Out of all the history that we actually get in this country about slavery, that is the one thing that they constantly teach. That is the one constant. Even when they change the history books to start talking about that enslaved Africans were actually indentured servants and they were happy and there was not all these atrocities that happened. Even when they try to erase the history, the one thing that they keep constant is always the fact that Lincoln, a Republican president, from the Republican Party of that time, of the late 1800s, freed the slaves. Yes, we know that. But if you continue to read, and that is something that we obviously know Kanye and Trump has not done, like both of them. I swear to God, I definitely think that Trump is illiterate, but Kanye, I'm starting to think he's illiterate too. I think he is very much against reading. And so if you know the history, and I'm not going to do a full history class because I'm not being paid to teach right now. And this podcast ain't making me money yet. Not yet. When it starts making me real money, we can have a full on, teaching session. But, we all know that there has been switching of like ideologies, especially after the Civil War, that there was a switch of ideology among the Democratic and the Republican Party. The Democrat Party was the party of the South, like it was the Confederate Party, and they actually ended up switching after that point to being a little bit more liberal. It became more prevalent in the North, and the Republicans became more popular in the South. Now, I'm not a political science major, and but I at least know that fact. I know that there was a switching of ideology among those two parties. Actually, it wasn't. I don't think they even were called the Democrat Party. Again, I'm not trying to do the history on this. I'm just trying to give you some facts. So he still continued talking about Republicans freed the slaves. Then he started talking about how he, he made a point here. He made a really interesting point. He was like, yeah, I go through all this stuff. But people say I'm canceled, but y'all are here. And I'm like, well, he's right. Like, y'all are bolstering him in his, I don't know, his fictitious intellectual, spiritual journey. Because it seems fictitious to me, because it seems like Kanye is just doing Kanye. And people are just, encouraging him to continue to put out white supremacist ideals, because that is something a white supremacist would tell you. Stop complaining. Hey, you should be joining the Republican Party. That's what that Trump told us during the election, the 2016 election, where he was trying to say, like, well, black people should just, I don't know why they follow the Democrat Party, because, Lincoln freed the slaves and Republicans freed the slaves. And I was like, what the fuck? But they will tell you that and then still spit in your face and then say that blue lives matter and that it's okay for police officers to kill unarmed black people because they're threats, and that Mexicans are rapists and drug dealers and deserve to be kept in cages, and particularly children and infants, and families should be separated. They'll tell you all those things, and at the same time try to talk about how they're the loving, accepting party that's doing the best things for people of color, and it's not true. But he said that, and I was like, yeah, you're right. People say you're canceled, and then yet they still sell out your concerts and still wear your sneakers and still wear your expensive ass hobo chic. Not even chic. Let me not put chic on it, because none of that shit is chic. His hobo wear, it's expensive, luxury hobo wear. But he also said something else that, caught attention, that people were like, what the fuck? So he, again, started talking about slavery and started talking about, very close to what he was talking about slavery being a choice. And this mofo came out his motherfucking mouth and said, well, next time they have the slave nets, they threw out the slave nets, how about we just don't all stand in the same place? And I'm like, are you out of your fucking mind? If you think... And this just shows you that he does think that slavery itself, not mental slavery like people try to clean it up as. He ain't talking about freaking some Bob Marley shit talking about it, emancipate yourself from mental slavery. None but ourselves can free our mind. He ain't talking about that. He talking about actual slavery, because he's talking about slave nets now. He said if they throw the slave nets out this time, maybe we don't all stand in the same place. Like when they enslaved Africans, that they all just stood there at one time and just got caught and brought over. Like it wasn't a whole system that included people who were enslaved, through wars that were happening among African tribes and nations where they were selling their slaves. Like they like slavery is not new. White people did not create slavery. They created chattel slavery, but they didn't create slavery. And, chattel slavery being like treating them like animals, breeding, like that is something that is very much a European creation. But talking about like, that there was lots of things where, they were being sold to Europeans for money, for beads, for alcohol, for, things. There was also slave catchers that went out there and did catch people. They also separated them so that they wouldn't be able to revolt. So you couldn't talk to people that spoke the same language as you, that came from the same tribe as you, so they would break them down before they even put them on the ships. And so it wasn't a question of like, we were so fucking dumb and chose to just stand all in one place when they threw the nets and was just like, okay, catch us, like we were some fish. Like a school of fish. We were not a school of fish. There was a long thought out, drawn out, very different ways that people were captured and enslaved and brought to the Americas. But Kanye doesn't understand that. And I love that at least 2 professors tweeted out like, yo, Kanye needs to go to the library. Kanye don't make no sense. And I'm like, yo, he keeps putting out this narrative thinking that he's right, and he's not right. He's talking about you should, I don't know why people are mad at me for saying that wear my hat and the Make America Great Again hat, and saying that they should vote for the Republican Party and Trump when he didn't fucking vote. Like all of those things. It's like, dude, you are wrong and strong in your beliefs and ideals. And one thing that you're right about is that even when you have said all this nonsense, people continue to support you, your wife, your family, your yes people, and your quote unquote fans, which I am no longer a part of. I still have Kanye music in my music library, but he's getting real close to being like canceled. Like R. Kelly level canceled, like deleted, gone, canceled, empty the trash, canceled. But I don't know if I'm there yet. There's levels to it, and I guess I'll do an episode eventually about cancel culture and what I think cancel culture is and if it's good or bad. Another story that came out was about Amanda Seales. So if you don't know Amanda Seales, she's an actress. She is a musician or artist. She is a Columbia grad like me. She's a fellow Cancer. And she has a podcast called Small Doses, which I listen to intermittently. When I can't talk today, I listen to it intermittently. I don't listen to it all the time. I don't listen to every single episode. I listen to what actually appeals to me, because she can be a lot. And then she says it's a part of her brand that, I'm not for everybody. That's her brand. I'm not for everybody. But she usually at least preaches that she's about Black culture, Black history, supporting Black people, and then also educating people, because she does have a master's degree in African American Studies from Columbia University, which I'm like, I know that department. I know IRAS, which is the Institute for Research on African American Studies. Am I right? But I know that department. I know the people who taught there. I know the people who taught her, people who went to school with her. And, and as she's a fellow Caribbean girl. And so there's a lot of things that we have in common. But just because we have these things in common doesn't mean that I can't see the fallacies in her, some of her actions. But I don't think she can do that herself. So she, on her podcast, and a lot of other people, bloggers, vloggers have been talking about this. So let me just give you a little breakdown, and then I'll be able to lead into today's topic. So she is on the show of the very popular HBO show Insecure. She is one of the cast members. She is a cast regular. And what happened is that she has an issue with the star and the creator, Issa Rae's publicist. Now, the funny thing about that is that Issa Rae's publicist, Vanessa Anderson, also went to Columbia. So they got something in common too. They actually sat down and talked to each other. But apparently, according to Amanda, Vanessa never had any kind of, was never giving her any good vibes, and was always giving her a stank face. And so she decided that she didn't want to fuck with her. But I found it funny that Vanessa went to Columbia, and she went to Columbia. I don't know if she was there when I was there, but she is within my age range. Like, she is friends of mine, because she's within that 5 years that I was. She's younger than me, so she was within that 5 years. I don't know if she started after I graduated or she was there when I was there, but I just find that really funny. So she said that she has beef with Vanessa Anderson, which is Issa Rae's publicist, but Vanessa is also along with the publicist agency that she's a part of, public relations agencies that she's a part of, has started this Black Hollywood Emmy party, right? So they started last year. And so here's what the issue is. So Amanda says that, her and Vanessa never really got along, and she just, has kept it like high and kept it moving. Like, I don't have to speak to you, but I can see that that you not fucking with me. And so Vanessa had creates this Emmy party, and Amanda was initially not invited, but she came as the plus one of Jill Scott. And so she gives this whole story of this party was happening. It's there's very few Black Hollywood parties around these, around Emmy time, around the award seasons. And so she felt like she really needed to be at this, because this was someplace where they would have very, very centered on Black excellence, Black culture, Black Hollywood, Black actors and people behind the scenes. And she felt like she needed to be there. So she went the first year with Jill Scott, and when the people at the door saw her, she was pointing, Vanessa came out because they called her and said Amanda Seales is here. And she pointed at Jill Scott. It's see who I'm with. And she said, according to Amanda, she said that Vanessa was like, no, not today. Not today, Amanda. And she's like, I have no idea what she was talking about. I'm like, okay, that could be true. And so, but she still let her go in. So she still was allowed to go in because it was the first year. I don't think she didn't want any kind of real problem. So the second year, this is the second year. Second year, she came to the party as a plus one of Jesse Williams. And she said that she was at other parties around the Emmys, just inviting people, right? So inviting Niecy Nash, inviting, it doesn't matter who else, but other Black actresses, and saying, yeah, you should come to this Black Hollywood Emmy party, right? So again, this is a guest list invite only party. Just want to point that out there. Like most of these Hollywood parties. she shows up and she said that she shows up with one of her friends who's not a Hollywood industry person, and with one of the cast members, not a regular, but somebody who was on Insecure. And the person at the door was like, no, you can't come in. And Amanda decided that she wanted to make a big stink about it and was like, why can't I come in? And the lady's like, you're just not on the list. You can't come in. And, all the other celebrities that knew her was like, well, she's Amanda. She's with me. She also pointed out that Janet Jackson's manager was there, and Janet Jackson's manager was like, oh, just come in with me. I guess we'll smooth it through. And she received, she was confronted by the security guard, another person with the list, that was saying that you are not allowed in this party. You are not invited. You're not on the list. We would like you to leave. And she said that she refused to leave. She's like, I'm not leaving because this is supposed to be Black Hollywood. I'm Black Hollywood and I'm here. Right. And so as I'm listening to the story, and most of the time, like when Amanda freaking told, Caitlyn Jenner about herself and about her white privilege and about how there is a different America for those of people of color, I was with her because she schooled the fuck out of Caitlyn Jenner and needed to be said, needed to not back down. And it is what propelled her into mainstream media's spotlight. But here I was like, girlfriend, you are so wrong. And as a fellow Cancer, someone who's like super emotional, gets in the feelings, feels a lot, feels, like sees the importance of loyalty and like standing by people and supporting people. Like, I was like, girlfriend, you so wrong. I was just like uncomfortable. She's like, I'm not leaving. She was talking about how there was a white woman that was holding the clipboard that was telling her not to leave. So she started making a race thing like this. I can't believe this white woman is being a gatekeeper at a Black Hollywood party, and I'm a part of Black Hollywood. And I was like, girlfriend, that is not what it's about. It's about the fact that she's working there. There's a list and you're not on it. And you already know that the person who is hosting this party does not like you, according to you, and did not invite you. So you have to listen to this on her podcast because she does it it's the side effects of professionalism. And it's funny because she framed it in a conversation around professionalism where she's talking about like professionalism is not being quiet. Professionalism is not throwing out your ethics. Like if it's about, making sure that you do your job and you're effective, but that you don't back down and you're not quiet. But I'm like, a lot of the things that she's saying is her trying to justify what she did, because she says like it's about professionalism, but these people were doing their jobs. The security guards that was trying to get her out of the party were doing their jobs. Like she was like, don't touch me. They threatened to call the police. The club owner threatened to call the police, and she was like, it's a Black club, black bodyguards, and it's like, security guards, and it's like, girlfriend, again, like they're calling the police because you were not invited. And I was like, where in this? Like I felt like she was so in her feelings about the situation and embarrassed that she just could not see that she was wrong, completely wrong. And of course, there's always like three sides to a story, like that person's side, which would be Amanda's side, Vanessa's side, and then the truth. But there was, in her own discussion of it, I was like, I'm happy that she shared, but I feel like she needed to take a couple steps back and like look at what she was doing. And that is what brings me to the topic of today's episode. If you cannot tell, of course you already saw it. That's why you clicked on it. Maybe you didn't see it, but today's episode is this week's episode. This week's episode is called Figuring Out When You're Wrong and What You Can Do About It. And I mentioned the two stories of Kanye West and Amanda Seales because they are both two people who are in the public light, who cannot recognize when they're wrong. And it's not all the time. It doesn't have to be like, I feel like Kanye in particular he's coming to a point where I don't think he sees himself as wrong at any point in time right now because he has so many yes people. Amanda, I feel, is getting there. I feel like before she hit it real big, before she had the I Be Knowin' comedy show that premiered on HBO, and before she had the I Be Knowin' tour and the Smart Black Funny and Black tour, and like before she ended up on NBC doing, I forgot what the other show was that she was doing on there. Like I feel like she is now getting to the point where she's not being able to recognize that she's wrong in this situation. And so if you are one of those people, I feel like all of us I use these people as an example because I think that they're great examples of people who always think they're right and won't admit when they're wrong. And I think that is something that is for all of us, that we all have the capacity. And I can tell you right now, I have no problem telling you when I'm wrong. Like, none. Especially if like you inform me in a way that is respectful and I have enough time to sit down and like, reflect and research and see, like, am I wrong in this situation? I have no problem admitting when I'm wrong, even to people that I don't fucking like. But we all have the capacity to be stubborn and unyielding in our feelings, but we can also recognize and stop it. And so here is where I come in with this. So I will mix in some of my own stories. I don't want to point out Amanda and Kanye, but they were just great examples from that's currently happening of people who may need to listen to this to understand, like, you need to start, paying attention to when you're wrong, because we're not always right all the time. We are not. But it's not about being right all the time. It's being able to see when you're wrong and then be able to act in a appropriate way about it. And so I looked up, of course, an article that gave some examples on like how to deal with like what you can do about being wrong, how you can recognize if you are wrong in a situation, and what you can do to decrease those instances or decrease the negative outcomes that come from like when you are wrong and strong in your wrongness, like in your opinions and your beliefs and your actions, what you can do to kind of just make things better and decrease those events. So number one, here's one: find the common denominator. Now, this is when you notice that you are repeating yourself over and over again and making the same argument again and again with different people, not the same person, but with different people. Then you are constantly having this argument that comes up because of a certain belief. If this is happening, you are probably the common denominator in the situation. So, for example, Kanye has consistently been trying to tell people that slavery is a choice, that he believes that Black people are mentally enslaved to the Democratic Party and that they should be open to different things. But when he was confronted several times, when people said he was canceled, and he knows he was canceled because he mentioned it, he was like, yeah, people keep talking about him canceled. He knows that. He knows he was canceled for his slavery is a choice comment, for his MAGA hat wearing with his Trump loving, Trump hugging, that weird interview that he had, conversation that he had with him in the Oval Office, where he was talking about creating invisible planes and saying that Trump has done the most for Black people than any other president. Like, what the fuck? But he's had this argument several times. When he did it at TMZ and Van Lathan got up and told him, brother, like, you need to stop. Like, I understand that you have your own opinions, but like, what you're doing is detrimental to the Black community. If you think you're helping, you're not helping, because you can go and make these statements and go on with the rest of your life because you're rich, you're famous, you have tons of yes people around you, you get to go in your bubble and people go out and do things for you, and you don't have things blocked in your way. You don't have to worry as much about being killed by white supremacists, by racists, by police officers who just assume that you're a threat because you're a Black person. Like, you don't have these things, but the people who follow you, the people who are your fans, are very much affected by these words that you are spewing, these very white supremacist ideals that you are spewing without any facts or stats, without any historical context, without any reading. We know you ain't reading. We know you said you don't you don't read these things. Like, if you read a book, if you were able to quote to me from The Miseducation of the Negro, from Carter G. Woodson, if you were able to quote for me The Souls of Black Folk from W.E.B. Du Bois, I'd be with you. If you were even able to quote the New Jim Crow by Michelle Alexander, when you started talking about, prison, the prison industrial complex and mass incarceration, and how that is linked to, slavery and the 13th Amendment. If you were able to actually do that, I would be listening. But he can't, because he's just not doing reading. He's just listening to whoever, is around him and that will suck his dick from the front, from the back, from the side. He's listening to them and not anyone else. He's listening to Trump because he sees Trump as an example of how someone who has no background intellectually, politically, professionally, in politics, in a leading role, and people are following them because he sees himself as this genius, as this forward thinker, and he feels like, you always have detractors that will tell you you're wrong, you're crazy, and that he is so right that he has to continue spewing this even when people tell him to his face, like, bruh, you're wrong. Even when John Legend, his friend, said to him, bruh, you're wrong. Even when Diddy went to him and said, bruh, you're wrong. Even when people said that they were canceling Kanye, he still is not seeing that and is continuing on this same argument, which shows me that he doesn't realize that he is the common denominator in all of these issues. And so if he can't do that, he's never going to recognize that he's wrong, but he has to realize that first. And for all of us, we have to realize if you're still having this same argument with different people about the same thing, you're probably wrong. You're probably wrong. You probably are the problem, and you need to reflect on that. The same thing with Amanda. Now, I love Amanda, but she kept talking about like how she deserved to be there because it's about Black Hollywood and how they all get, pushed out of these spaces. But she seemed to fail to recognize that the person who was this was not a public party. This wasn't a party for Black Hollywood only. It wasn't like if you have a SAG card and you identify as a person of African descent, that you automatically got entrance into this space. This space were for people that were invited by the people running it, including Vanessa Anderson. She didn't invite you, so you can't be there. You can't continue to start talking about professionalism and how Vanessa is not being professional, and the people that were in those spaces need to realize, the ramifications of their actions, like threatening to call the police because she wouldn't leave. It's like homegirl. If you're someplace that is a private event and they ask you to leave and you don't leave, they have the right to call the police on you. That is the right move. Like, yes, there are certain dangerous things that can happen when people call the police on Black people, whether they're famous or not. But if you're in a private space and you show up, and she showed up with a +1, she wasn't even invited, and she showed up as someone's +1 and showed up with a +1 and didn't see a problem with that. I thought of it in the space of like the conversation I had about weddings. Like, think about if I wanted to like really reach through my headphones and be like, girl, imagine this was your wedding, right? Imagine this was your wedding and you invited people and there was somebody who's friends with people that that are in your close circle, but you're not cool with that person. Y'all just associates. And that person showed up to the wedding as a +1, even though you told everybody, like, I don't fuck with that person. I don't fuck with them. And they showed up to your wedding as a +1, knowing they're not wanted, and showed up with a +1. So you have 2 uninvited guests, you and your friend. And then you refuse to leave when they tell you that you are not welcome here and we would like you to leave. What does she not understand about that? I know she is educated. She has a bachelor's degree and a master's. I know she can understand it. And I just felt like, oh, girl, like, I know exactly what you're feeling. Like, you are in your feelings and you needed to take several steps back and admit, like, I am wrong in this situation and I probably won't even give a fuck 2 days later. Or that like, she is the common problem. Like, you are the problem. The first year you showed up and there was an issue and you're like, I don't know why she treated me that way. That was a very unprofessional to be like, Amanda, not today. And then the second year you show up and they pretty much like forcibly try to escort you out. You can't say Vanessa's the problem here. If you go to the same place and have the same issue, you are the problem. You are the problem. And you have to recognize that and be able to deal with that and be able to say, like, you know what? Maybe I need to reach out to Vanessa. Maybe I need to step back and look at, why do I feel that I need to be here? And why does she feel like I shouldn't be here? Why is it a problem? And be able to reflect on, what can I do? Do I want to go to this party and then have to take steps to alleviate any issues between me and the person that's hosting this party? Or do I just move on and say, you know what, if I'm not invited to this party, then I'm going to create my own space that is a lot more inclusive than this person who's throwing this party that I have a problem with. Right? And a part of that is just like, it really is just about, what I'm trying to say is, it's just about being objective. Like, look at why you're making the argument and be objective. Does it make sense? Are you just holding on to it because you don't want to let go of your idea, or you don't want to look stupid? So you look at all those things. What is the purpose of this? Why do I continue to hold on to this argument? I really want to know, like I just explained Amanda's stuff. I really want to know for Kanye, why is he holding on to this whole slavery is a choice narrative? Why? Why is he holding on to, hey, black people, you shouldn't just follow the Democratic Party like cattle? Like, you can't just go with them just because you're against Republicans for whatever reason. Like, you should go and make decisions for yourself. Well, you say that, but then you are telling people to go for the other party. Is he not seeing the problem there? You can't say don't follow the Democrats, but then say you should follow the Republicans. He is not saying to have free choice. If you choose to follow the Democrats, it should be about your ideals. And if you choose to be a Republican, it should be about your ideals. And don't worry about what people think about which party that you're supposed to support because of your skin color or your race. No, he's not saying that. He is saying straight up, if you're stupid for continuing to follow the Democrats, and if you want to be smart and free, then you need to follow the Republicans because I'm telling you so, because I'm a genius and I'm telling you so. And it's like, Negro, you should figure out why people are so upset with you when you continue to say that, especially for the fact that, one, he did not vote. So I don't know how I can trust somebody telling me about like where my political allegiance should lie, how I should vote when you haven't fucking voted. Like, you don't get an opinion in this when you are someone who can legally vote in this country and you choose not to. Shut the fuck up. You do not have an opinion in this race. You don't. You don't have a stake in this game. You don't. Shut up. And I don't think he sits down and thinks, does it make sense? Because he talks about how he doesn't agree with Trump's ideals, but yet he supports Trump. How does that make sense? Does your argument make sense? Yes, folks, I'm all about Trump, but I didn't vote for him. Does that make sense? No. Hey, folks, I don't support Trump's ideals, but I think you should have voted for Trump and you should vote for Trump in 2020. Why? Isn't it about ideals? Isn't that the whole point of what you're voting for someone for? So you are saying that, nah, I'm not okay with him, making comments about people of color or about creating these like concentration camps of people seeking asylum and undocumented families being separated, about the atrocities that are happening at the border, the way he speaks to other foreign countries, the fact that he has very much engaged in conspiracies against the United States, sitting there plotting, trying to convince the Ukraine to dig into the Biden family because he wants to win the 2020 race. It's like, hello. Did you think about that? Like, why are you holding on to this so much? I think it's because he doesn't want to look stupid or seem wrong, because in order for him to be a genius, he has to be right all the time. And I would think of something for myself, but I cannot think of, like, off the top of my head, a problem. I'm not saying I'm never a problem, but trust me, I'll come up in these other examples. Also, you need to examine why that argument happened. Why did it happen? What are the circumstances? It's best to make it a habit of considering all the possibilities so you can easily recognize when you're wrong. Like, understand, what are the other people thinking? So, for example, for Amanda, like, why do you think Vanessa was so mad when she saw you at the door of her party? Is it because that you admittedly said that you don't fuck with her and she don't fuck with you? Like, Is it that? Is it because she didn't invite you? Is it because she's trying to create a space and she doesn't want you in there? Like, think about it. Sit back and actually think about, why did that argument happen? Why are other people so mad? Why are people arguing with me? Why are they not seeing what I think is right? Is it because I'm wrong? Is it because we have different opinions? Is it because someone has a different experience or viewpoint than me? Like, you need to be able to see other viewpoints to be able to recognize when you're wrong in the situation. And sometimes you might be right, but you still have to be able to sit back and be reflective and objective. Okay? You got to reflect, and then you have to be objective, meaning that you have to be able to remove your biases, your personal views, and look at all the facts, and then make your conclusion. And so I think that's one of the issues there that she's not doing and he's not doing, and some of us aren't doing at all, when you end up having the same argument with different people at different times over and over and over and over again. Like, for example, I got one from common denominator. So I consistently have issues with my male friends' girlfriends or wives. And after a while, I realized that maybe the problem is me. Maybe it's the type of relationship that I have with these guys, and I haven't decided to change them to accommodate the fact that they're now no longer single, but now in a relationship with somebody who I need to be respectful of their boundaries. For me, this happened like a while ago, where I had like a huge blow up with with the then girlfriend of one of my really close friends and the wife of one of my formerly good friends. And I got all of my feelings, and I got upset, and I, said some things that I meant at that time, but the next day I did not fucking feel like, I just didn't care anymore. Like, I felt like they left me out. I felt like they left this party, this fantasy football party, and didn't invite me because they didn't like me. They didn't want me around. I don't know. Maybe I just felt like they were being really rude to me, because I didn't even know when they left. They didn't even say goodbye. And I was like, okay. So I tried what I assumed was that, like, I was having more conversation with them than I normally would, which is past the hi girl, how you doing? How's work? Like, I was actually asking follow-up questions, which I usually don't, but my mom tells me that I need to do to be, sociable, which is, for me, as an introverted extrovert, it's like, if I'm not interested in you, I really just don't put the extra effort in. Like, it's just that. But, and as a Cancer, like, I keep my friends really close. I put up barriers around me and people that I don't know or trust yet. You don't get to see my face in my eyes until I can trust you. You don't get to see my soft underbelly until I trust you. I just don't let anybody in and just start, yapping with people that I don't feel are people that I want to engage with. So I took it as like, I made an effort and they spit in my face. Probably not the issue. They probably saw, like, Toya never really talks to us, and so she probably wouldn't even want to come with us, which I probably wouldn't have. I would not have left the party with them. Like, I have no interest in being around two people that I normally don't hang out with, to be somewhere else with them where I can be around the people that I actually am comfortable with. Like, I was comfortable being there with the guys and eating food and, being on my phone. So, but I still took that as a slight, and I try to bring it up to the boyfriend and husband of these people, and they weren't trying to listen to me, but I was also the only girl there, and I was like, yo, y'all, like, I feel like y'all are treating me like some angry black woman, and I left, and then I made a whole video about it and posted it on my YouTube, which you can see the video on my YouTube, and I probably will also put a clip of it on my Instagram so you can see what I was talking about. But everything I said during that video was what I was feeling at the time. Now, I do realize that maybe I should have taken several steps back, a day to sleep on it, and then made the video, and it would have been less vitriol in it. But I said a lot of things, but I meant it at the time. But I realized that my issue with, and it's more than one, not just these two, like, I've had issues with at least 3 significant others of my male friends. And I realized the problem is probably just me. It's probably me. It's most likely me, because of the fact that maybe I haven't like changed the boundaries that I have with them. I haven't changed the parameters of our relationship to respect their relationships. I feel like I'm respecting them, but I haven't taken the time to look on their side. So I can say, because with my friends, I'm very blunt. I'll just say things like, and most of them know like I'm joking or I don't really mean it. And sometimes I just put my whole foot in my mouth and will just say whatever comes to my mind, especially with a couple drinks. Like I'll say some things like, damn, I shouldn't have fucking said that, but I said it. So let's just try to see if I can laugh it off. And I realize that can be problematic for other people that don't know me that well. And for people that I have obviously shown that I haven't made the effort to actually get to know, which makes it seem like I don't like them, but it really is that I'm just apathetic to them. Like I just don't have any feelings about them. And so I will say in that point that I was definitely the common denominator in that issue. And from that issue, when I took a step back and had to deal with like the repercussions of it. So I had to have like 2 talks with these dudes. And like, I apologized to one of the girls, for what I said. And I said, my problem's not you. My problem's with your significant other, my friend. And I'm sorry that I said these things that you took as offense, because I didn't mean to offend you. I was just, in my feelings, because the next day I didn't really care. The next day I did not care. I woke up the next day and I was like, okay, I gotta go to work tomorrow. That was it. But I can recognize that, but we have to all be able to recognize that. So number 2, another tip for recognizing what to do when you might be wrong. Look at a situation's potential outcomes. So think about where your beliefs and opinions will lead you. So if you decide that you want to talk about slavery as a choice, where are you going with this? What is the outcome that you want? So Kanye saying this, what is the outcome? What is the outcome? Did he want people to be like, oh yes, oh my gosh, you are right, we are still mentally enslaved? To whom? I don't know. I guess he was saying to the Democratic Party. So, okay, we're enslaved to the Democrats. And so now what does that mean? That we all just switch over to the Republican Party? Do we start a new party? Like what was the outcome that he wanted? And I don't think he knew. I think he was just saying it just for saying its sake, because it was something controversial that would give him attention, that would have people talking about him and talking to him. And I don't think he was really thinking about the outcomes. And that's what Van Lathan was saying to him from TMZ. He was saying like, bruh, you need to understand what the ramifications of your actions are. When you say this, how is it going to affect your fans who are, living, who are not rich, who are living out there in the world where they are potential targets for the police, potential targets for mass shooters, potential targets for white supremacists and the alt-right, and all of these people who just very much hate people who are brown and really would love to go back to slavery and would love black people to stop complaining about shit that white people created, like racism. But he didn't think about what is the outcome? What do you want to see? For the same thing for Amanda. So you make this whole big stink about, and you use Vanessa's name, give the whole story. What did you want from this? Did you want Vanessa to reach out to you and say, hey girl, I'm sorry, next year I'm going to invite you? Or did you want people to boycott Vanessa's, public relations agency? Did you want Issa to fire Vanessa? Did you want your castmates to all get up and walk out the party? Because she talks about that there was a whole insecure table and she's like, I was supposed to be there, but it's like you weren't invited. Like I went to a wedding that was a college friend, and there were people that we were friends with that wasn't invited, but I wasn't like, oh, they should be here too because there's a Columbia table and all the Columbia people that you're friends with should be at this table. They should be invited. They should be here. No, no. They had a table for people who were invited that fit in that group. And you didn't fit one of those things, as in like you weren't invited. And so what was the point of doing this whole call out and masking it as a conversation about professionalism? Like professionalism would be not to talk about this shit in the open unless it affected your money. If she went and she did something that, was defamation of character, and she said that, all these stories came out about like how she pissed at the party and that's why they asked her to leave, or she was like thrown out, or she broke things and left. And it's like, okay, but those are all rumors. That's all gossip. Like, did you lose your job at HBO for that? Did you lose your Did you lose your book deal because she has a book coming out? Did you lose your book deal? Did you lose your podcast? Did you lose any money? Did you lose any friends besides the ones that you think are not, being loyal to you because you are so loyal? And I get it. She was tearing up. I was like, I get it. I get when you ride so hard for somebody, for people, and they don't return that shit for you. Like I said, like for my friends, my friends, I will fucking walk over a burning bridge naked, blindfolded for them. And when they don't return that, I can feel slighted. But you have to also realize that people do things, within they're in their own way. Like, so she mentioned it to Issa, and Issa's like, well, it's not my party. I can't tell Vanessa who to invite to her parties. And so in that conversation, are you asking Issa to fire her publicist who has been doing such good work for her? Or are you telling her to go yell at her publicist? Are you telling her to go force her publicist to invite you? Like, what is the outcome that you're expecting from this? And will your way lead to a better result? Is it going to be better from you saying that slavery is a choice and people should, emancipate themselves from mental slavery? Although he said slavery is a choice, and next time you see the slave nets, to not be all in the same place and to run. What is the desired outcome? Is it going to be better? Or will you simply uphold your ethics but create a poor result? So for Amanda's sake, I feel like she's upholding her ethics. She's saying it should be an inclusive space. She shouldn't have been excluded. Vanessa shouldn't have put her personal feelings about Amanda in the whole inviting of people to this party, that she should have not made a big stink about it, that even though she wasn't invited, she should have just let her be there. But you hold on to those ethics and say, like, this is the way you're supposed to do things. But what do you create? What do you create? Are you creating a poor result? Are you creating a situation that is worse for the people that you say that you're advocating for? And that is something that we really have to think about. Like, what is the result? And for both of these two examples that I just said, I don't think there is a positive result from it. There is no, hey, these are the benefits of what would happen if you saw things my way and changed. Number 3, moving on. Don't try, and this fits in with what I just said, don't try to change someone else's behavior. I mean, this is for relationships too, just in general. You cannot change other people. You can only change yourself. You can only change yourself. You can make suggestions. You can say, like, I would love if you would do this instead. I think it would benefit you, but you can't force people to change. You can't make them change. And you shouldn't try. You shouldn't try. You should express how you feel about something, but you shouldn't try because it's never going to work out. Like, what do you want to gain by changing their behavior? So what would Kanye want to happen by getting all these black people to recognize that slavery is a choice and we're still mentally enslaved, and that, that we need to leave the Democrats and we need to vote for Trump and we need to wear MAGA hats and we need to buy his $500 socks and his holy shirts? Like, I'm not getting it. What do you want? What is it? What are we going to gain from changing that behavior? What are we going to gain? What are we going to gain? What is going to happen? What does he gain from people changing that behavior? Because all the examples I just said, some of the examples where you make money. Is that what you want? For Amanda's sake, you want Vanessa to make this more inclusive, but do you want it for everybody? So, for example, I know she's fully against Stacey Dash's fucking confused, like, she thinks she a white woman. She got arrested and put on her race that she was white recently. And it's like, okay, girl, okay, you white now, but back then, back in the day, you were black. But I know she really don't fuck with her. She think that she's brainwashed, that she needs to be canceled, that she is, sucking on white supremacist dick, like all these kind of things, right? But she's a part of Black Hollywood. So are you saying that Vanessa should also invite Stacey Dash to this party? If you're telling her that she needs to be more inclusive and include all Black Hollywood, don't make any kind of distinctions. Just say, do you have a SAG card? Do you work in the industry? And are you a person who identifies as Black or looks Black? How are we going to determine this? So we should invite everyone. So I guess she wants to also invite Stacey Dash. Is that what she wants? What does she gain from that? I don't think she would want that. And I don't think she's thinking about, like, what would happen? What do you gain by trying to change this behavior? And from this, you need to concentrate on the things you can do to change your behavior. If you want to make things different, concentrate on the things you can do to change your own behavior rather than insisting that the person is wrong. So what can you do to change this activity? So in the case of Amanda, because I don't know what the fuck Kanye can do, he just needs to shut the fuck up. I feel like that's what he needs to do in his life. Shut the fuck up. Go get therapy. Play with his kids. Maybe move out of Hollywood. Like, I totally agree. He should move to Wyoming or back to Chicago, but move out of LA, move out of Calabasas, move out of there. Move overseas. Like, if you like it better over there, raise your kids, go to therapy, drink water, make music. If that's your outlet, make gospel music, whatever you want to do. Read a book. Fuck your wife and shut up. That's it. Like, things would be so much better, but I can't make him do that. You know what I'm saying? But those are things that he could do if he feels like he wants to make things better. For Amanda, I feel like she should concentrate on what she can do to change her behavior. If you want to be at this party, maybe you might have to suck up your pride and say, hey, Vanessa, I'm so sorry. I know there seems to be some issue with you, but I really feel like this would be beneficial to me to be at this party. Now, don't do it on podcast. Don't do it in a way that you're trying to defame her character and then call her unprofessional, because that's what she did. Go up to her, send her a fruit basket, ask her out to lunch, show up at her office and make an appointment and say, hey, I would really appreciate being able to attend this event, and what can I do to make amends between us? We don't have to be friends, but I would like to be a part of this. It'd be very, very beneficial to me, to you. What can I do? But she's not looking at it that way. But that's the easier thing that she can do than trying to say Vanessa's wrong and she should change. Like, what can you do? And if you feel that she's not going to change and you don't want to deal with that, then create your own space. Like you've always been saying, she always talks about creating your own stuff. If people are creating barriers for you, create your own shit. You know, when people say that you can't have your own TV show, create your own web series. That's what she did, and that led into her, eventually ended up on Insecure. Like, creating the Smart, Funny, and Black, tour and the brand of that, and having it be about Black cultural knowledge and celebrating the culture. Do that. Yes, do more things like that, instead of pointing out at people, hey, you did this wrong to me and you need to change your, no. And the same thing for me. Like when I talked about like those friends of mine with their girlfriends, like after that incident happened and after I dealt with both guys and said what I had to say and made my apologies and also made my points clear, I also made the decision to not spend as much time with them as I used to, because I used to be over there all the time, just up there every weekend, hanging out with these dudes. And I decided, like, I'm gonna take a break. I'm just gonna hang out with my other friends, my female friends, myself. I'm just gonna remove myself from this situation, because obviously I'm the one causing the issue and I can't make you change. I can't make these girls change. I can't make them change how they feel about me. But what I can do is remove myself from that situation and then see how that works out for me. And it has worked out. One of them no longer is dating that person, so I was like, okay, that's done. And the other one, I just realized, like, we're not friends like that. I don't need to be around you. I don't want to be friends with your wife. I don't necessarily miss you in my life, taking the space back. We can be associates. We can be around each other. But, like, I'm not losing sleep by not being able to call you up and be like, hey, can we go hang out or have some drinks? No, I'm not losing sleep about it. But it took the space, me changing my behavior and changing my perspective to be able to see clearly on what the situation is, that I was wrong in expecting people to do things and to treat me in a particular way when I haven't really thought about like the other perspective. And so I removed myself. Number 4, what you can do to recognize how to change it if you realize you're wrong. Consult the facts, or as I like to say, check the facts and the stats, okay? You got to be objective. You got to be a researcher. Put your researcher hat on. Go back to your high school science class, your college science class. Go back to the research method, the very basic research method. You come up with a question. You go look up, you do a literary review and research the stuff. And then you start putting your argument together. You do the research. You come up with your conclusions and you share it. Like, go ahead and do all those things. But the key point here, and as they always say, especially in the social sciences, but just in science in general, you have to be objective. There have been so many things that have been put in place because they recognize that people have their own implicit biases. People have their own, like, subjective opinions, like things that are based off of their experiences and feelings and not based off of facts. And that's what people need to do. If you realize that you're wrong, if you realize you're always getting to the same argument over and over and over again, you got to be objective and do your research and not just look for the facts and the stats that bolster your beliefs. Don't just look at the books that fit into your ideals. You have to look at all the books, and they have to be credited books, not, some random crazies, blog page like Trumpy doing. He just loved himself some Breitbart, and it was like, none of that shit is research. It's very much biased. But you should be looking at all angles. Where can you find the numbers? Where can you find the facts? Kanye talking about slavery as a choice obviously was proof. Talking about, him talking about the, next time they put out the slave nets, that you should not all be in the same place. That just proves to me that he's never read a fucking history book. Go back and read your fucking history books and then come back and tell us what we could do to avoid a next American slavery. Like, I would listen to that if he actually, as I said, if he actually did the research, if he actually read some books, if he actually was trying to give information. And it's just the same thing for Amanda too. Like, she said all this stuff, but I was like, girl, these aren't facts. These are subjective. This is anecdotal evidence. This is not, there's no facts. Like, can you find other people that were excluded from this Black Hollywood party that you feel should have been there too? And you can say, well, Vanessa is doing something. She's saying it's about Black Hollywood, but she has excluded, A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. And they, have either worked with her and she didn't like them, or like, can you find out the facts? Can you point out and say, this is something that is beneficial for all of us, but she's excluded people, not just me, and this shows you that Vanessa is the problem, that her agency is the problem, that the way that maybe they need an outside person to create the list because she doesn't know how to be objective. If she was able to do that, I'd be like, okay, girl, but no, there was no evidence. It was just her. She said even her friend that she brought that was not an industry person was not being asked to leave. She's like, obviously it wasn't about, industry people. It was about me. Yes, it was about you. That so much so that she didn't even care that this random person that she didn't invite, that you invited, was there because she wasn't causing a ruckus. She didn't have a problem with her being there. She never said you can't come, and she came. Like, you are making a stink there saying, I want to talk to Vanessa. Where's Vanessa? I'm not leaving until she says something to me. Why are you touching me? Don't call the police. Why are you calling the police? I'm a Black woman and you're a Black man. You try to put me out here and this white woman is holding, a clipboard and then tell me I can't come into a Black Hollywood party and there was an insecure table and I should have been at that table because I'm part of the cast and none of the cast members got up and said anything. What could they have said? What could they have done? Like, consult the facts. Where are you wrong? What have you said that actually takes in the facts and the stats of the situation? Because it seems like you're only using anecdotal evidence that is only based off of your experience of the story that you heard from somebody else or your own that you are using to back up your theory. And you can't do that. You can't do that in research, and you shouldn't be doing that in life, because you're going to end up finding yourself outside of these events that you want to go to. You're going to find yourself with less friends. You're going to find yourself blackballed. You're going to find people being, not interested in supporting you or being around you, just like with Kanye. Like, you keep saying these things, but you have nothing to back them up. You say that you want to talk about gospel music and it's a spiritual thing and you want to reconnect with God, but then you still are selling $500 socks at your Sunday services. You're still sitting there talking about Trump. Last time I checked, there was a separation between church and state. But Kanye wouldn't know that because he doesn't know his history. He hasn't done the reading. And so you can't sit there talking about this is about God, Jesus is king and all this other stuff, and then talk about Trump and how people need to vote for Trump, and then slavery, was ended by the Republicans. What the fuck? Those two things don't go together. And so you need to actually check the facts. If you're telling me the Republicans, free the slaves, you need to also get into the facts that they also switched allegiances. They switched ideals, that the positioning of these groups actually changed over time. But you're not telling me that because you're not bringing the objective facts and stats. And that is where I have a problem. When you start talking about people who are wrong and strong in their beliefs. That's how you remain wrong and strong, when you actually don't do the reading, when you actually don't do the research, when you don't listen to people. And that leads me into number 5. Do not get defensive if someone tells you you're wrong. You must consider what they're saying. And so if they tell you you're wrong, like, girl, you're wrong, bruh, you're wrong. And they tell you, this is why I'm saying you're wrong, because of this, this, and that. Don't get defensive. Say, okay, you have a different opinion from me. This is what I feel. This is what you feel. Let me sit back and actually maybe look at what you're saying, and then I can get back to it. Let me actually sit down and think, we don't have to agree, but like, maybe you have a point there, or maybe you don't have a point, but you have to be able to agree to disagree. Agree to disagree, and then be able to be self-aware. Like, okay, maybe this person is seeing it this way because they haven't experienced this. And I have. And I don't know if I can get them to understand it unless I can physically get them to experience what I'm experiencing. And so maybe I'm right. Maybe they're right. But I don't have to get defensive and get upset and make a whole rant and make a video about how your friends treat you like an angry black woman. Like, that was me being defensive. And I had negative outcomes from me being defensive. Now, if I had taken the time to breathe, to sleep, to think on it, I probably would not have said the things that I said publicly in that video. I feel like the same thing for Amanda. If she had taken a breath, taken some time, meditated, talked to other friends, sat down with Vanessa, that maybe she would not have made a 2-part. I haven't listened to the second part of the podcast. Maybe she wouldn't have sat down and made this whole not long, but it was like an hour long. I guess it's long because it's 2 parts. It's broken into 2 parts, but she wouldn't have been there upsetting herself and creating this space where people are talking about how she's entitled, how other people are saying that she's hard to work with, how people say that she's a bitch, she's this, that she's that. And I'm like, you said yourself that your brand is that you're not for everybody. And you should have took that and went with that. It should have been, okay, Vanessa didn't invite me. I'm not for everyone. That's my brand. I understand that. And so I understand that she didn't invite me. I shouldn't get upset about it. And if I'm really feel like this could be beneficial to me, then I will have to make amends with her, or I will have to create my own space. But either way, she has a right to not invite me to her party. She has a right. And I have a right to be upset. But I also know that not everybody's going to like me. Not everybody's going to agree with me. But I'm going to always tell my truth. And that, I agree with her on that point, but she just didn't take the time out to not be defensive. And that is where the problem was. I was like, ooh, girl, I could barely get through it. I was just like, oh my gosh, please stop. Like, girl, this is wrong. She's like, well, it's not her wedding. It's not her birthday. It's not this. Yes, but it's still her party. It's a private party. Private party. Just because I'm on the plane and I paid for a plane ticket doesn't mean that I can sit my ass in first class. Doesn't mean that, because that is something that I didn't get invited to in terms of like money. Like, you can't just because you are a part of the community doesn't mean you can just show up. You can't just show up and say, well, this would be beneficial for all of us. Yes, you said it may not be her birthday party, but it is her party. And she made the decision not to invite you. And so you have to respect it. You have to understand it. and consider what they are saying, what she's doing, and say, you know what? The way I reacted to this was wrong, and I'm not going to go out there and sit there and call her unprofessional, all this other stuff, because I myself was acting very unprofessional in this space, making a big stink. And I just want to end with that, like her talking about, like, let me go back to the part of like what you think the outcome is. And I'm not trying to harp on her. Again, I very much respect her. I love that she has a master's degree, that she talks about, reading. She talks about different things that she's read. She talks about different facts and stats. The way she spoke to Caitlyn Jenner was very much about the facts and the stats that shut Caitlyn Jenner up. That was very great that she has called out people that I'm like, yes, I love the way that you are able to stand in your truth, stand firm, even when people are attacking you, that you're able to create spaces for yourself. I respect her as a fellow Caribbean girl, a fellow Columbia grad, a fellow, Cancer, like a fellow summer baby, a fellow podcaster, a fellow creative. I respect her in all these aspects, but I really want her to think about the outcomes. I want all of us to think about the outcomes of our actions. The fact that she says that she wants it to be an inclusive space for all Black Hollywood because we are constantly marginalized and not given our due. When you go and you make a big stink in a public forum about this other Black woman, about this Black woman's party that she put on for Black Hollywood, and you talk about how you felt like you were disrespected in this space and that it shouldn't have been about that. When it gets out into white media, what do you think they're going to think about this space? What do you think they're going to be saying? If you're so concerned about, making it an inclusive and safe space for Black people, why are you tearing this woman down in the public? Especially when you have access to her. Why isn't this a private conversation? Instead of making it public and making it ugly and making it divisive, because she called out her cast members, and it's like, what is it going to be like when y'all are taping this upcoming season? What is it going to be like when you guys have to go on a promo tour? What is it going to be like when you want to promote your upcoming book and none of them are going to promote it for you because of the way that you acted when you didn't get your way? That is how you have to really think about things. And with that, I'm done with this subject. I hope you guys learned something from it. And this leads me into the last section, which is figure this out. As you can tell, I had a lot to say. I was gone. I might have been gone. Might be not on time. I might not have come when you expected me. I might not have been here on Monday, but I'm always on time with the information, with the questions, with the content. So here it is. Figure this out for me, because I don't know the answer. What can Black people do without getting killed by the cops? Like, let me know. I saw after this, and I don't want to say her name because I cannot pronounce it, and I'm sorry. You know what? Let me take a break and just figure out how to say her name. Okay, I'm back. I figured it out. Tatiana Jefferson. The whole story about how she was killed by a police officer who was called by her neighbor, not the emergency, but was calling for a wellness check because he saw that her door was open and her lights were on. This police officer who went and shot and killed this woman through her window, didn't identify himself as a police officer, is now being charged with murder. That I saw a lot of conversations that were happening around, what is it that Black people can do? So this woman was in there playing video games with her nephew, minding her business. Maybe her nephew forgot to close the door. Maybe she forgot to close the door and it just was ajar and it just went open. It's happened. It happens. It happens. It's something that happens. So we can all understand that. But it's like, we have gotten to a point where you pretty much Black people can't do anything without the cops being called and possibly getting killed, shot and killed. So we can't be in our house eating ice cream, minding our business, because a police officer might break into our house thinking it's their house and shoot us dead. We can't play video games with our nephews in our house and accidentally left the door unlocked and have a neighbor be concerned about us and call for a wellness check without a police coming and shooting and kill us. We can't be pulled over by the police officer, be a card-carrying licensed gun owner and do our be responsible and say, hey, police officer, hello, officer, I want to let you know that I am licensed to carry and I do have my firearm in the car without being shot and killed in front of our loved one and child. We cannot go to the park and play cops and robbers or whatever. We can't play with a toy gun or water gun at a public park playground without being shot and killed. We can't wear a hoodie and walk down the street with some Skittles, walking to our back to our house without being shot and killed. We cannot try to sell illegal loosies, single cigarettes outside of a store without being chokehold and killed. We cannot be arrested without getting our backs broken in the back of a car. We cannot be trying to get to our grandma's house quickly without being shot in the back in our grandma's yard. We can't do a lot of things. So what can we do? We can't call the police without them thinking that we are the suspect and being killed. Like, what can we do? What can Black people do? If anyone can tell me what Black people can do without, the possibility of being killed, let me know, because I don't. And it's becoming quite unclear. And I saw this, Chelsea Handler had tweeted this out, and I'm happy that she did, because I guess she's on this whole journey about understanding white privilege and her own white privilege and trying to spread that to her white, viewers. She had a whole Netflix thing about understanding white privilege. And I thought it was just very poignant what she said. Like, what can Black people do? They can't call the police. They can't have the police called on them. They can't, be in their house. Like, so what can we do? And even when this does happen to us, our killers are not, prosecuted the way they're supposed to the full extent of the law. They're getting 5 years and a slap on the wrist. So what can we do? What can we do? Can we breathe? Can we live? Can we barbecue? Can we try to sell lemonade? What can we do? What do they want us to do? Should we just pick up our ourselves and go find a cotton field and go work for massa? Or do we run from the slave nets as Kanye told us? What can we do? And if you know, let me know. Hit me up and let me know. And with that, I'm done with this episode. It's a little longer than most, but I had a lot to say. I hope you gained something from this. Again, thank you very much to everyone who's been listening and sharing this with other people. My listenership and downloads are up. It is amazing. I'm already at 700 downloads total. About over 170 downloads this month, and it's only October 16th. Which again is more than it was in August. And I'm just really appreciating it. Let's continue this. Let's continue to spread the word about the podcast. Let's continue to grow. Interact with me. Tell me what you want me to talk about. But again, thank you, everybody. If you really love the show and want to support me, the best thing you can do is to subscribe to the podcast wherever you're listening to this. Share this with your friends. Share it with the people that you know are wrong and people you know who are right. And then also go onto iTunes and give me a review, please. Rate me and review me. You don't even have to write a review. You can just give me the rating. The more ratings I get, the better I am able to position myself in a place where I can be found by others through the Apple Podcast platform. I told you I want to be featured. I'm focused on the prize. I'm focused on the prize. And I really would like to get there, and I know you guys can help me get there. We can get there together. And so I hope you all have a wonderful, blessed morning, afternoon, evening, whatever time you're listening to this, wherever you are. And we will chat it up again next week. All right, guys. Bye.